like to call the Proctor City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 to order. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll perform a roll call at this time. Councillor Benson?
Present.
Councillor Reuter?
Present.
Councillor DeWall?
Present.
Councillor Johnson is absent. Mayor Ward is present. And let the minutes reflect all others in attendance. Jason Claddy, Matt Bolf, Chief Gatus, Ted Kiefot, Megan Jordan, and Administrator Rich. And Attorney Bray is on the phone. Looking for a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes from Monday, February 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Councillor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Councillor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move the agenda.
Councillor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second with a slight modification.
Councillor DeWall seconds that with some changes. Councillor DeWall, go ahead.
I'd like to add 6J. In reference to the last meeting, we wanted to have a discussion to take some action on an agreement between the Proctor Speedway and the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Shouldn't take that long, Mr. Mayor.
6J will be added to the agenda, and I would like to make one change since we got Jason Claddy sitting in front of us. If we could move 6H, Golf Course Management Agreement, up to 6A. With hearing no other changes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. At this time, we'll take comments and suggestions from the citizens present or those viewing via the YouTube channel. The public comment suggestion period of this meeting is when the City Council offers a time for everyone in attendance or watching from home to address the City Council. Once we move on from public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, members of the public will no longer be allowed to address the council unless the mayor acknowledges you. As a general rule, the council will listen to all comments but will not comment on or respond to any comments made by speakers. The council will not engage in dialogue. However, any councilor can ask questions. If you'd like to address the City Council during the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, please come forward to the podium or call 218-628-6289. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the meeting minutes. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the City Council will be prohibited from using obscene, profane, or threatening language or boisterous conduct that disrupts the meeting or the security of the public. Is there anyone at this time that is interested in participating in the public comment and suggestion period of this meeting? We'll give that a minute.
Hello, I'm Jason Claddy. I'm here for my proposal to run the golf course in Proctor. Just a little history about me and my family. My brother owns Grandview Golf Course, and he's previously leased Proctor. And this year, I'm going to take it over and do my best to try to service the community and, you know, all the golf leagues and events and stuff. And so I'm just here to ask for your guys' approval to take over the golf course.
Thank you, Jason. Did any councilors have questions for Jason at this time? We will be addressing it under 6A, so.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments or suggestions? Hearing none at this time, we'll move on. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Reuter. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Benson.
can we pull 1B, please?
1B. Absolutely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us to 1B, 2021 fourth quarter finance report. Councilor Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And the reason why I pulled it is a lot of work went into this. Certainly appreciate the effort, and while I have no formal discussions, I certainly thought it deserved a motion to be accepted on its own rights.
Thank you. And we can entertain that motion if there's no other discussion available.
I just have a couple, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor DeWall.
This has, I guess I'll phrase this to Administrator Rich. I know this is long before, actually might be looking at Councilor Reuter here. Under the Fund 300 and Fund 550. I'm just wondering if we could, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to subtract them. I'm wondering if we can reconcile or clean that up.
That'd probably be a question for Finance
Leslie.
Director.
Yeah.
That's why I'm deferring to you to defer to her. And then I was just kind of curious, and you can have Director Leslie Brumfeld email me, but I'd like to see I saw the expenses for the liquor store. I'd like to see the overall, and I know they went up, and I understand why they went up. I'd like to see the end year revenue,
Okay.
just so we can see the plus minus.
Is that everything, Councilor DeWall?
There was
More?
yes.
You're good on that? Thank you. Any further discussion? I guess I would just like to thank the city staff and the council members sitting up here. If you noted on page 1, we received several grants in 2021. ARPA grant, Assistance to Firefighters grant, CBDG money, and Small Cities Assistance grant. Big values there that definitely help out the community and the city. So thank you for your hard work on all those grants that we got approved for. Hearing no other discussion, Councilor Benson, would you like to entertain that motion?
I would, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, to adopt and recommend the fourth quarter finance report.
You heard the motion by Councilor Benson. Is there a second? I will go ahead and second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to 4A, LBAE meeting, Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. All of you are up to date on your local Board of Appeal and Equalization training. Just a reminder that we do need a quorum during that meeting, or we can't take official action. If we don't have a quorum, we can hear the appeals and then adjourn and reconvene the meeting at another time. But that is the date that we ended up settling with the county.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding that meeting? Date or time?
Why does it always seem like it's in March? Previous years. But I'm assuming that's our target date, and that's when we have to have it in. But it seemed like previous years we always had to have it done by March. They
I think
changed.
it's been earlier, but I think it just depends on when the county can fit us in. You know,
Yeah, it's
they
completely.
kind of move around, and it's up to them when they have dates available to come here, I think. That's where we end up with whatever.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion regarding that? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4B, Minnesota Coastal Program Star Grant. Administrator Rich.
So I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that We wrote a grant to the Minnesota Coastal Program, STAR program, and that's a short-term for projects that you can apply for protecting waters and waterways. We were awarded the grant, and it was a planning grant. It was for $10,000. However, after we started talking about timelines, and this was for our sand salt facility. This was $10,000 to help protect wetlands, for the benefits that the new facility is going to give to Kingsbury Creek. Our project timeline is not matching up with STAR's project timeline. We did receive recommendation by the Governor's Council, and then it was supposed to go on to at a higher DNR level. But between the STAR staff and myself and the engineer, we decided that these timelines weren't going to meet up, so it would be best for us to release those resources to other communities. But it is on, the Governor's Council felt it was a very good project, and they do offer other larger projects for cleaning up creeks and waterways and wetlands. So at least Proctor is on their radar. It's unfortunate that we had to decline it, but it was nonetheless an honor to be a good project from the Governor's Council.
Thank you. Does any counselor have questions regarding the STAR grant? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4C, Relief Association Board Meeting. Administrator Rich.
As you know, Mayor Ward and myself are on the Relief Association Board of Directors, and we attended a meeting last week. These meetings are going to be held more regularly, perhaps quarterly. And just to so you have the heads up, the topics of discussion were changing the point system to receive benefits. And it was a very good discussion, and I think between the fire department members and the Relief Association Board, a good compromise was decided on, which will be coming to you for approval sometime in the future. But Mayor and I do attend those meetings, and Councilor DeWall also attends them as well.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the Fire Relief Board meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4D, Levake Road Welcome Sign Update. Administrator Rich.
I was asked to give an update on the destruction and repair of this sign. We tried to collect from the person who destroyed the sign. There is no insurance to collect from on their part, so at this point an ICR has been submitted from the police department to our insurance, to the League of Minnesota Cities for an insurance claim. And as far as the replacement, there's been some talk about rebranding or changing up those signs, and this would be a good time to change them one by one or perhaps all three. So that's been the lag in getting the sign replaced.
Thank you. Council have any questions regarding the welcome sign?
If we're looking at a rebrand, Mike, please. If we're looking at a rebrand, who's gonna partake in that? Where do you see that flowing?
In the past, the Chamber of Commerce was instrumental in that, from what I'm reading from the file, in the design and the purchasing and installation of those signs. Chamber isn't meeting as regularly as they once did, or maybe not have as strong of membership, so maybe we take a different direction.
I'm just wondering where it would fit appropriately within our structure.
This is the first I've heard about them rebranding. Who started that? Or where did it come up that we need to change?
It was, Ms. Mayor, it was first discussed 3-4 years ago. Just to, keep the city seal, but perhaps rebrand. That's not as cluttered or without as much information. Not exactly sure what that would be or how it would take, just to start the discussion.
Oh.
Not that it would ever take place, just to give some thought to it.
A freshen up, maybe a rebranding is, but just to freshen up the logo and the designs. It's a good, and with it being destroyed is a good time to replace it with, start working slowly towards that. Our logo is very hard to have printed on like any sort of apparel wear because it's very busy. So now is a good time to just start thinking about it. But we've just submitted the insurance claim, so we've got a way to go on this project.
As a seal, I like it, very detailed, it really is rich in history, but as far as putting it on a sweater or hat, it's pretty difficult. Even on the side of a truck, it's...
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilor DeWall. I mean, if we're going to do a rebrand, then we ought to come up with a little committee or somebody that's going to head that up. You know, I think last time we just, I think it was the Chamber of Commerce, and I think we had some input from tourism or something, and we just kind of came up with what there is there. And at that time, we were paying for the sign, so we just made them the way they wanted. Well, if we're going to redo that, we probably want to, you know, it'd be nice to rethink that and get some input from tourism and the chamber and city council and come up with something that we think is good, especially with the, you know, changes they're going to be making on the highway in the next few years and things like that. I think the rebranding wouldn't be a bad idea. I just agree with Councilor DeWall that I think we ought to come up with a committee, and if we're going to do that, we should start talking about it now so that, you know, as funds become available, we can replace those signs. And
Yeah, and I did participate in this was 3 months ago, 4 months ago now, but the school invited me, or school personnel invited me to a meeting because they're looking at rebranding some of their stuff, and there's a local company that's working with them, and they wanted the city involved because if we do decide to rebrand, they kind of wanted to be similar to what we are looking at, but a committee within the city I think would be a good idea. So very early stages, it was just a quick half-hour meeting and talking about if we were interested, and I think we're always interested in looking at new options. So Administrator Rich does have some of that info, but I don't think we put it on the back burner for time being just because everything that was going on. So we do have some things out there that are in the works, but nothing right now. So to Councilor Reuter's point, I think a small committee within the city would be good, and now would be the time to maybe start addressing some of those issues. They're not issues, but
And for perspective, the city seal's been around since the mid to late 70s.
thank you. Any other discussion regarding that? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4E, WLSSD Annual Report. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to keep you up to date and posted that our annual report was submitted and was submitted in a timely fashion. City staff and city engineer are, I would say, exceptional in the preparation of the report and getting it in. And we did have a meeting with the WLSSD staff, and they always seem to be very impressed with Proctor and our progress towards our goals.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that report? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5E.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just stop.
Councilor DeWall.
Make sure my mic's on here. Not to beat it to death, but I think we should leave that image or logo branding under unfinished business so that we don't lose track of it. Because otherwise it just seems to disappear. Because I do agree that, yes, we have some time, but if we wait, then we're going to miss the opportunity. And I also think council is going to need to be involved because at one point or another, we may have to reach out to a company to help us articulate this a little bit.
Agreed. My only question, I guess, would be for Administrator Rich or Attorney Bray. Can we put that under unfinished business, or should we just add it to the next agenda for discussion, and then we can you put something under clerk advises council under unfinished business.
Well, yeah, either way would be fine. I mean, as long as it's on the agenda, you can act on it.
Okay. With that being said, I would agree with Councilor DeWall. Let's put that under unfinished business, and that list just keeps growing.
We gotta get stuff done.
We're going to take care of one right now, though. Thanks for that, Councilor. 5E, Greystone contract. I see we got Matt Bolf in the audience today to help go through this again. Thank council for last meeting to put this on hold until we had more of councilors in attendance. But Matt, would you like to speak, or?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. Again, Matt Bolf with SCH. I serve as your city engineer. I will give what updates I can, but I think Mayor and Administrator Rich have had conversations with Greystone as well. So I'll let you kind of fill in what gaps I might have. But I just want to start quick with just the little bit of background here, just so we put everything into perspective. The total project out at the site is about $833,000 of construction. That includes your site work, your utility work, the joint garage between the city, the PUC, and then the salt sand shed. Of that, $608,000 right now is planned to be bid out to the local contractor community right now. So 73% of the project is already getting bid out on the private side. The $225,000 that's left over is the salt building itself, and it is somewhat a specialized service. And as we talked about last meeting, it is approved through Sourcewell. So of course we had the conversation last meeting. I know, Mayor, you were absent for that one, but we talked about a little bit of what Sourcewell means, and Administrator Rich sent an email out kind of explaining a little bit more of Sourcewell, because I will admit I am not a Sourcewell expert as far as how it was founded and what it was for. But basically what we found out is that through Sourcewell, the building itself, the erection of the building, and the concrete footings for the building and the concrete tip-up panels all can be put out through Sourcewell. The benefit to that, of course, was you're likely saving money on it because there's a discounted through Sourcewell typically, and then you're not spending money on staff and SCH to do another public bid for that portion of it. The questions that came up though were what are the other options looking like if we didn't want to use Sourcewell? Obviously, you could bid out the whole thing to the local bidding community. 5-6 years ago, city staff, Public Works selected this building based on their research, based on visiting with the neighboring communities, St. Louis County, MnDOT. So that's the building that we are going to specify, and that's the building you're going to get whether you bid it out privately or whether you buy it through Sourcewell. So you're going to get the same product, I guess, either way, I guess, is what I wanted to look at. Some of the other options that you would potentially have here, the building is sort of specialized in that the crews that do that from Greystone, it's a 3 or a 4-man crew, that's all they do. So you definitely have an efficiency of labor there. I don't know that bidding it out, I would imagine if you bid it out, it's going to be more expensive. I can't guarantee anything, but I would just guess, just because it's a crew that's what they do. From other options of Greystone, we asked about the tip-up panels. They could certainly take that out of their bid. We had asked them to put it in their bid on purpose. The tip-up panels, there's really only 2 suppliers of that in the state, and you're going to get one of the 2 regardless of how you bid it. And generally, those suppliers also place them, so there's not really a local labor component to the placement of them either. So for that one, at least in my mind, it doesn't make sense to try to do anything different with it. The other thing is the footings for the buildings themselves. So there's going to be, I forget the number, a little over a dozen concrete piling or footings that go in that the building is supported by. Right now, Greystone's contract includes the excavation, the forming, the pouring of that concrete, and the design of it to signed off by an engineer for the building department. So that's all included in the price. That is one thing that they can take out of their contract, and you could bid that out to local contractors. To give you a sense of value of that, I would guess, don't quote me, but there's maybe $40,000 worth of concrete work that you're talking about. So another 4% maybe of the overall project would potentially go out to a private bid. So the pro to that, I guess, would be your local contractors are going to have a chance to win that work. I would say the cons is I definitely think you're going to pay more for that one because now we're going to have a separate bid package just for concrete footings. So you're going to pay us to do that. Plus, now we have to hire likely SCH or a structural engineer to sign off on it. So someone has to then calculate all the reactions, all the structural design to sign off on it, get it under their, in my case, liability insurance, et cetera. So there is a cost to actually doing that where Greystone, it's already in there. So that's the downside is I definitely feel like you're going to pay more for the footings if you do it that way, but it would go to the local contractors. So that's the, you have to weigh what the benefits of each of those are. So that's kind of the conversations I've had from Greystone. I know Administrator Rich had sent out, at least to a few of us, a nice little summary that she had found of what the Sourcewell thing is and how they meet all of your public bidding requirements. I'm not going to speak to that just because I'm not an expert on it, but so I guess Administrator Rich, was there other things you wanted to add to?
Yeah, thank you. I will add, the Greystone's bid also assumes that all of the site preparation is done, so it's pad ready, it's ready for the building, which that would be done through the local bidding process as well. And then it also does not include the asphalt, the floor of the sand salt facility, which again would be done by local work. So as Matt both explained, really, it is mostly just the specialized structure. Sourcewell awards contracts, as I said in my memo, at the manufacturing level. So if you could think of it as the city of Proctor buying Mitel phones. We're going through Sourcewell, found a vendor, Mitel phones, secured the lowest price, and then the local dealer buys the Mitel phones off of that contract. So this, we can break it down into a more tangible rather than a very large building like this. So Greystone is the authorized dealer of Brightstone buildings, if that's helpful to you in making your decision.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Bolf or Administrator Rich? Or any discussion regarding the Greystone contract? I guess I have some questions or concerns regarding it. I sent Administrator Rich a pretty lengthy email, and I'll try and sum that up here. But one of the concerns I have is we have a purchasing policy in place that was approved in December 20th, 2020 that requires any work $40,000 or more to be put out for bid. Along with that, there's some language in there under number 4 of the purchasing policy that talks about using local labor. To Mr. Bolf's point that it could be more expensive, it may be, but we don't know that sitting here because it hasn't been put out for bid. But to that point, more specifically, for any dollar that is spent, that is paid out on a project like that to a local contractor, that money can multiply 7 to 8 different times throughout the community. So the money spent will in return come back to the city in, as far as taxes or what have you. Doing my own research on Sourcewell, I found many items that were kind of bothersome to me. They do put out national bids. Some of the places put these bids is in print in Salt Lake News out of Utah, USA Today, which is a national newspaper, the Daily Journal of Commerce, and this is all right from their website, which is based out of Oregon, and the State, which is out of South Carolina. They also put it on their website. Pretty hard for local contractors to bid on a Sourcewell bid when it's advertised in South Carolina and Oregon and what have you. My understanding again on this process is in order to bid on or be awarded a project from Sourcewell, you have to have been previously awarded a contract. So those are some of the issues that I have. I know when Sourcewell was presented to the city, it was a good tool for our toolbox to have. But it was presented as a capital improvement type of resource to use, not on construction projects. Capital improvements such as the new fire engine we got or the new plow truck we'll be discussing later today. So those are just some of my concerns. One of the main ones I have is there is prevailing wage attached to this project, I believe.
There's state prevailing wage attached to it, yes.
So are we going to include, it's state certified payroll, or do we have to require payroll on it? Somebody needs to share of the prevailing wage aspect of it.
So on the publicly bid portion of it, between myself and your staff, we would police the state wage rate for the Sourcewell. I guess I am not sure how that gets policed. I don't know, Administrator Rich, if you know how that gets audited?
Yeah, no, I don't know, but Mayor and I spoke earlier before the meeting that perhaps that's something that city staff can police along with your assistants. Police, as you would say, make sure that those reports are filed with us at the least.
Yeah, I think that would be one aspect to help this thing, to make sure we are following prevailing wage. Because I do know some contractors sneak into an area and
Yeah.
they cheat on that. So I want to make sure if they are doing the work, they are paying the prevailing wage that goes along with it.
So for any of the publicly bid projects we do for the city of Proctor, we have state wage rates in there, and we require wage reports typically at every pay request, but for sure at the first one, and then at the last one, everything has to be rectified if there's any errors before we'd release payment. So on that side of it, we're covered. I just don't know on the Sourcewell side of it.
Sure. And furthermore, I did have some conversations with Greystone over the last 48 hours. And I do believe they are, I know they are entertaining using local contractors or local labor force for this scope of the project. So that is one positive. We're at least making some progress there with Greystone to use local labor. So that's all I have. Any other counselors have questions, concerns?
Ms. Mayor?
Counselor Benson.
And I went to Sourcewell, and I noticed there were two other companies that did salt sand sheds, and I could not find Greystone on the Sourcewell site. So I didn't know if that was just operator error on my part or...
Yeah, I can clarify that, Councilor Benson. So Greystone was not awarded the contract. Brightstone is the manufacturer of the building. Brightstone was awarded the contract, which you will find on the Greystone, or on the Sourcewell, so many names there, Sourcewell page. Greystone is the authorized dealer of the Brightstone project.
Okay.
So if I could give an analogy of the truck that's later on in the agenda, Mack Truck was given a Sourcewell contract. We are working with Nuss Trucking to benefit from that Mack Truck contract. So in this case, a local dealer, a local manufacturer, whatever, benefited from the Sourcewell because they're a Mack dealer. Just to divert about Sourcewell, we checked into the Sourcewell pricing for the Mack truck, and we checked into the state co-op pricing on the Mack truck, and the state co-op pricing was better. So it gives you an idea a little bit more about how Sourcewell works.
So Brightstone, was that the company out of Wisconsin?
I'm sorry, I do not know.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. I guess I forgot to mention one thing. After this is all gone through and said and done, I do believe our purchasing policy would need to be updated. I mean, if we have a purchasing policy in place and we're not following it, let's make changes to it so we can follow what we have in place. So that'd be my suggestion to council, that we revisit that and make it right. I know Administrator Rich had some concerns with it as well. So maybe a good option for down the road is to revisit that purchasing policy. That's all I got. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none at this time, we'll entertain a motion to accept the bid for the Greystone contract for the salt sand shed. Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second? Councilor DeWall seconds it. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Aye. Do a roll call vote, please, Administrator Rich.
Sure. Counselor Benson.
Aye.
Counselor Roweeder.
Yes.
Counselor DeWall.
Yes.
Mayor Ward.
No. Motion passes. And that will bring us to 6A. Actually, 6H. Golf Course Management Agreement. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as you know, we had a resignation of Chris Claddy, our golf course manager, who has filled that role for several years. The golf course committee came up with an RFP process and proposal that was published publicly. It was posted on our website. There was some distribution of it. It was also posted on other websites. And Mr. Jason Claddy, who is the brother of Jason Claddy, did submit an RFP. And in the last week or so, we have been talking back and forth. The proposal that you have in front of you is, with the exception of adding some insurance languages and adding and changing a few things, is pretty much as the RFP was written. It's just written in agreement format. And Jason is here to answer any questions that you may have. You can ask any questions of the agreement or the contract. It's our hope that this is a 3-year contract. Jason and I spoke before the meeting, and he is hoping for a longer-term contract in the future. So hopefully this can be a long-term relationship. If you have any questions about the agreement, it did run it by the negotiations committee, and Councilor DeWall asked for more specified language on what regular maintenance and regular wear and tear means versus major improvements. And Jason and I did talk about major improvements before the meeting. Our plan is to come up, as he gets acclimated to the course and what his needs are, is to come up with a 3 to 4 year capital improvement plan for the golf course and work on that with the golf course committee, so that maybe we can find some funding sources and build that into the budget to bring the golf course to where it meets the needs of the community.
Thank you. Any questions for Administrator Rich on that? Jason, do you have anything more to add?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But we will come up with a capital improvement plan and, address it to the committee in future.
Cool. Thank you. So hearing no questions for either party, we'll entertain a motion to accept the golf course management agreement.
I'll move.
Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And thanks for attending. That will bring us back up to 6A, Proctor PD 2021 Annual Report / Deer Hunt. Chief Gatus.
I want to talk about that first. So by ordinance, I shall report the annual deer hunt information. So had an officer, because we had some property that was annexed in a little while ago, and the hunters wanted that map expanded. So we redid the mapping. That took about 3 to 4 hours to do. Jess Booz had to redo the application because of that, worked on that. And we had 15 applicants for the 2021 annual bow hunt. With those 15 applicants, it takes approximately 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how well or they know where they're going to hunt for that. So it takes some time for our staff to sit there and do that. So with the 15 applicants, we ask every single one of them to report a deer that was harvested within the city limits. I brought this up to the council before. If this happens again, I'm going to make a recommendation that we eliminate the deer hunt. Last year, we had 0 deer reported. There's a lot of time that is spent by our staff to sit there and do this, and we have not had anybody report anything to us last year that a deer was harvested. We changed the ordinance last year to make it easier, or not require a doe first, but we went at, no, they didn't have to take an antlerless deer first. So that's why I wanted to bring up first, so you guys can sit there and think about that for the following year. So, to the report now. Obviously, 2020 was a different year for everybody. Our call load has went up, but also be noted that we also lost 3 officers last year. Incidents, usually when we look at historically through the busier months, it usually starts, April picks up a little bit when the snow comes, goes away, and the summer months are usually busier, exception of June, where the call load seemed to go down quite a bit. And call load can mean self-initiated activity where the officers are out there, checking on buildings, self-initiated field activity at impound lots, businesses, door checks, etc. So last year was a total of 5,570 ICRs, with December having the least amount of activity of 394. Your most serious crimes, which Part 1 crimes are, there's 10 Part 1 crimes. We combined a little bit of some of the serious crimes in here with domestics and disturbances, because a lot of our disturbances are somewhat serious. So that is an all, let's say all Part 1 crimes when you look at that. The arrests, the adults 34, juveniles is 2, not meaning that we brought 2 or 34 adults to jail or 2 juveniles to AJC. Arrest can mean as simply as writing them a ticket for 5th degree assault or consumption or things like that. The one thing I want to talk about is incidents, is that their medical calls were at, sometimes our numbers are right around 400, and last year we're at 355 medical calls. As looking at in the future, we are going to more and more medical calls, and less times we have less staff to go. So we got to consider that in the future, how we move forward. Going down to assist other agencies, that historically has come down because Hermantown has added staffing to their department, and they have more officers out, and we're pretty much the same of having 1 officer out at a time. I wish I could have the stats of how many times a deputy, a trooper, or another officer assist us, but that's kind of hard to do because it only counts as a deputy. It says the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office shows up. It just shows, marks as 1. I don't know if there's 1 or 2 deputies that showed up. If it says the State Patrol, just marks it down 1. I don't know 1 or 2 State Patrol officers or state troopers show up. Okay, so that would be the things I wanted to highlight in there. Any questions about that quick report?
Thank you, Chief. Does council have any questions for Chief Gaddis? Councilor Benson.
Mr. Mayor, one thing that was in past reports was like a traffic report. And I didn't see that here.
So, let's see.
We do
You have
have,
traffic tickets, 49, traffic warnings, 514.
it's under miscellaneous.
And which page?
That is on page 6 at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
And since we're on that page, one good thing that the officers did is that we tried to update our local key holder update in case business owners in the town, we found their door smashed or door open, we're able to contact the business owner quickly, and rather than not having the correct information on who is managing or owning the building right now.
Did that answer your question, Counselor Benson?
A little bit, you know, because I was used to the older reports, and this one seems more condensed.
Yes. And I have a whole bunch of stuff for you here.
Okay.
That
Thank you
you
very much.
asked, I'm condensing it from this, we're condensed it from this to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We also had, like I say, we lost 3 officers, but we also, through the training and stuff like that, the officers had combined 286 hours of training time last year. And our training time goes by what the post in the state states, so that goes from July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of last year. And depending what can be counted if the officer worked here long enough to be counted in the state reimbursement.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Kent Gator?
In
Or
those
Chief?
200 hours of training, is there like one piece of continuing education that gets more attention than others?
Like, on this group here, for instance, now this year, Counselor Dewall and I may have to go to first aid training together, EMR training together, and that's 16 hours. So at minimum, all of us went to 16 hours of training for first responder training, to respond to our medicals. So how it's broken up, I can give you numbers if you want to hear it. So mandated training, in-service training, use of force training for the whole department is 26 hours. General training, which is all non-mandated training, is 180 hours. And then there's some mandated in-service training, emergency operations, like vehicle operations, pursuit training, 2. Mandated conflict management and mediation, 17. And that is part of the new state statute that requires us in our licensing period of 3 years have 16 hours of mandated crisis intervention training. And then other mandated training, 9 hours. So there's a total of 286 hours, but mind you, if the officer only worked here for a little bit, we couldn't count that in the state aid.
And Mr. Mayor, the only reason why I ask, with all the attention being given in the state on training and PTSD, I thought it would be interesting to hear what we do in Proctor. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chief Gatus? Hearing none. Thank you, Chief. With that, we'll entertain a motion to accept the Proctor PD 2021 annual report / deer hunt.
I will make that motion.
Counselor Benson made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 6B, 2022 towing permits. In your packet was application for a towing permit. You see the 2 companies there, Troy's Towing and USA Towing, Inc. Looking for a motion to approve the 2 towing companies.
I'd make that motion.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Abstain.
Counselor DeWall abstains. We don't need a roll call vote on that, do we? No? Just minutes reflect that. Motion passes. 6C, Resolution 07-22, declaring surplus As you can see, the recommendation here is declaring the following equipment as surplus to be sold at a public auction. It's the park truck from the street department. Looking for a motion to declare the following equipment as surplus.
So moved.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 6D, Resolution 08-22, designating certain funds to the Public Safety Fund. In your council pack, you saw some minutes from a discussion from a previous meeting that we had. Councilor DeWall was looking for some, I guess, some money from the fire department to be budgeted into the Public Safety Fund. Finance Director Brunfelt and Administrator Rich did a good job working on that and getting this resolution in front of us. So just looking for a motion to approve Resolution 08-22, and I'll go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 6E, Resolution 09-22, designating polling place. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may have heard, the state of Minnesota did finish up their redistricting, and although you passed a resolution designating the polling place and precincts back in November, when the redistricting is approved and finalized, we have to pass another resolution redesignating. In this case, there is no changes to Proctor's precinct or polling place. Of course, unless you wanted to make that change, but the polling place is the Proctor Area Community Center, and our district is we just have one precinct. So I'm just asking that you reconfirm this in a new resolution that satisfies the state.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve Resolution 09-22, making 100 Pionk Drive in Proctor, Minnesota, our polling place.
Move.
Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 6F, Resolution 10-22, designating ARPA funds. In your packet, there was some information regarding the ARPA funds and what council would like to see with those. It is the recommendation to pass a resolution to elect the standard allowance available under the revenue loss provision of the American Rescue Plan Act, and that's what Resolution 10-22 is. So looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that for discussion. Any further discussion? So, Administrator Rich, so this ARPA funds is just going into the general fund?
That's
for the
correct.
most part? And then are we going to look at using it for specific projects or items, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. You have enough with the allowance to declare it under the standard allowance, but again, you have the discretion to spend it where you want to,
Thank you.
as long as it's within those
Guidelines?
guidelines.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. 6G, 2022 Building Inspector Services. In your packet, you can see our building inspector and the city have agreed to a 3% increase in pay. Mr. Boysen did not receive a pay increase for the building inspection last year in 2021, and the agreement is attached to that. Looking for a motion to approve the 3% increase. I'll make that motion if there's a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion?
Would you point out that typo, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just gonna say that. So in the first paragraph on that second page, it says $1 amount, and then in the third sentence below that, it says a different dollar amount. The top dollar amount would be what was agreed upon, 6108. 6108, $6,108. So that is the actual 3% increase on that. So any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. 6I, snow plow truck purchase approval. In your packet, you can see we have a couple bids for a new snow plow truck, and I think I'm gonna toss this one to Administrator Rich.
Thank you. So we do have in our budget, or at least in our financial planning, it's not in the budget, but it's in the plan as we consider future budgets, what piece of equipment is scheduled to be replaced. In 2023, the plow truck is scheduled to be replaced. Knowing what we went through when we purchased the new park truck, the delay in manufacturing and delivery, Rick did go out and get pricing on it. And in fact, if we were to order now, we would, best possible date is April of 2023. Realistically, it's more of September, October of 2023. So it was good that he went out to get those prices because this could even be delayed further. Those prices are in front of you. Those, as I did report earlier, we did check into the Sourcewell for the Mack truck, and the state co-op purchasing venture and the state co-op bid was a better deal with Nuss Trucking through Mack, the manufacturer. The reason why it's being brought to you is, of course, you haven't approved your 2023 budget yet, so it would not be prudent of us to, the purchase hasn't been approved, bottom line. So we're asking you to approve the purchase tonight so we can get the truck ordered.
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion to approve the two quotes from Nuss Trucking and Towmaster in the amount of $221,572. I'll make a motion for discussion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilor Reuter. Any discussion regarding it?
Yes.
Councilor DeWall.
We've got two quotes, and obviously the last dump truck we purchased, we did a lease to own. I believe that was paid off, is it this year or last year? I'm just curious what the payment, because we were paying, don't quote me to the cent, but around 30 or 35,000 a year is what we've been accustomed to for the last 5 years. And I'm curious what that new, in other words, can we lease, being there's two different companies involved in this? Is it under one lease? Who's going to hold the lease? Is it Nuss Truck? Is it Towmaster? Are they two separate? Do we have to pay all up front for one and just lease the cab chassis? Those are just some questions. I'm not opposed of getting something, but I'd like to know a little more financial impacts, especially being it's going to be next year's budget.
Correct. Okay, I'll try to, we do have the option of leasing with Nuss. I do not know whether that includes the Towmaster part of it or not. We are not required to put any money down or pay anything until the truck is delivered. So we do have time between now and when that magic delivery date is to figure out our financing. We can also choose, if Nusta will not finance the Towmaster, we can go through like government capital leases, which we've done on other vehicle purchases, to finance all of it together. And it could be for a 5-year, it could be for a 10-year term as well. It's not that I would recommend that, but it's too early for us to go out to shop for rates, obviously, being so far out. You could also go through someone like Minnesota Rural Water Association, who offers financing, capital financing for purchases like this.
Like I said, I'm not against it. I'm just a little leery, being that I know what the previous sand truck costs. Obviously, things go up in nature. And we were at that 35,000, and this is almost 1.5, if not twice that dollar amount. So if we're looking at, $50,000 lease payment, $60,000 lease payment, we're accustomed to 30. At the end of the day, we have to find the money, which means something's going to have to wait. So it's, and I understand we're saving 30 and we're reusing the existing sander, and I understand that the International will take place of the Ford, which should have been replaced 20 years ago. I'm just, you know, as we look at the capital outlay, I know within 5 years, there's other equipment that's gonna come up, and I'm just wondering, okay, we approve this today, and let's just go conservative at a $50,000 a year lease payment. Now we gotta add possibly a grader or a loader in the next 2 to 3 years. You know, the loader was 130,000 when we bought the last one, so is that gonna double? You know, I don't know, it's a tough one for me because I can see it. We have to replace equipment, but I can see a lease payment for a few years where, I mean, we could be in excess of $100,000 to keep our street department up to date. And I just get a little nervous without having kind of a plan of, you know, and to approve just the order of the truck is kind of senseless because it doesn't do us any good unless we get it outfitted by Towmaster. So I'm just looking for opinions. You know, unfortunately, that's all of our jobs to make the tough decision, but I'm looking to the other counselors. I guess I'll look at Councilor Reuter. Have we done this in the past where we kind of pre-spent dollars future without?
We haven't really.
It's unusual, I admit, but with the delivery times and maybe if you delay your decision, maybe delivery times will get better. I don't know.
So to hit on that, Councilor DeWall, I guess I'll share my 2 cents. I agree with you. I don't like approving something for next year's budget when some of us, including myself, may not be sitting here. I think that should be the responsibility of the incoming councils to make those decisions. However, the street crew does need a new plow truck, and the crazy world we're living in right now, you know how hard it is to find regular vehicles, let alone a plow truck that's outfitted to fit their needs. Over the last 36 hours, you can see the importance of having updated equipment for our street guys with all the snow we've been receiving. So I'm okay doing this, but to your point, it would be nice to know what the financing options are, and unfortunately, we probably aren't going to know until closer to delivery date.
Probably, yeah.
Why wouldn't we know before? We should be able to find out lease plans.
Rates change and stuff though, so when we go to get that.
Right, but I mean, we can have today's rate equals this payment.
Sure, we could get it for what it would be today.
I don't think ordering any equipment is gonna get any easier for the next 3 to 5 years, but it's always gonna be a year out, so this is gonna be a new challenge for us moving forward with more items to come, but, you know, at the end of the day, we have a service that we have to do. We need the right equipment to keep our employees safe and keep the roads clear. I agree with all of that. I just, when I looked at the previous number of what we paid and looking at this and just doing quick math, you know, I have no problems with 35,000, but I don't want to be put into a position to where we either have to come up with 100 grand and pay that off and just do a lease on the, you know, that might be one option. Because if we just lease a cab chassis, that's gonna be about that $30,000 payment again.
Mr. Mayor, the thing is, I think we need the equipment. We're gonna need the equipment. We gotta order it. I don't see the price ever going down from here. I mean, things are just crazy. Like Councilor DeWall said, things are just gonna be this way for at least the next 3 to 5 years. I personally would like to see us order it, but then I'd like to see us do like Councilor DeWall was talking and look at what are our options to make that fit our budget for next year? You know, how can we work the lease or, you know, various things. The good news is we have 8, 9 months to figure out how we're going to pay for this in the next budget. That helps a little, but I think we need to. I don't know if the delivery times will get any better or whether they're going to get worse. So I would like to see us order it.
As would I, because it sounds like right now it could be September, October that gets delivered, and that would fit right in with our winter schedule. So it would be nice if we wait any longer, we might not get it for the following winter, so.
This is a perfect situation where doing a 3 to 5 year budget plan is a good idea. I mean, yeah, okay, you didn't anticipate that vehicle prices would inflate this much, but at least and that was the kind of the idea of the capital purchase plan, was to get it on the radar. And not that you approve 3 years of budget, but you approve one, 2022, and then you have 2 more years of a plan that you're working towards. But as we get our software situated and get Finance Director Broomfeld acclimated, we can certainly start working on a 3-year budget plan.
Thank you.
I'll just reiterate, Councilor Reuter, I'm okay ordering it, but I do want to see numbers. And I don't want to see them just before it shows up. I want to see them in the next month, because there's no reason why we can't get numbers for that at today's rate. And what I was hinting on earlier with, I know there's other pieces of equipment coming up. I'm just looking at how to maximize our cash to loan. And sometimes it means you don't just buy one and wait 2 years, buy another one. It might behoove us to buy 2 pieces of equipment at the same time, is where I was going with that. And I don't know which is up next, the loader or the grader, but I know one of them is coming up in the 2 years or something. So I'd just like to see that in the future, because things aren't going to get any cheaper.
Right. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. 6J, Speedway and City Agreement. Councilor DeWall.
I brought this up last council meeting under members' concerns. Mr. Benson was here. For those of you that weren't, we run into this catch-22 with what we're calling a management agreement between the fairgrounds and the Proctor Speedway. And at the end of the day, I don't know what changed, but when the county had it, there was some tax forgiveness, and then when the city took over that property, that tax forgiveness disappeared. I guess I feel at the end of the day, it's part of Proctor, and I think it is in our best interest that if we can help by helping them with an agreement, it helps our liability load at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if they're not successful, we have property that's not doing us any good. So the purpose of bringing it up was I'd just like to direct our legal, John Bray, and city administrator to work through that. We have something very similar that we just approved tonight. And I'm just looking for council approval so that we can get that going and maybe help them yet this next season. Because I know their agreement is due. And I don't know if it was due the first of the year or the exact timeline, but I know it's due. And the agreement that they have is just way outdated.
So you're looking for a motion to direct Attorney Bray, Administrator Rich to start working on that?
Yeah, start working through that and, present it back to council, whatnot, with recommendations on how to proceed.
Is that an official motion?
That's my official motion.
You heard the motion from Councilor DeWall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to members' concerns. Councilor Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And this just came out today, so I don't know if Administrator Rich had an opportunity to see this, but there's like $250,000 available for community development block grant funding, and there is an additional $415,000 for COVID-19 funds. So they're looking for eligible cities. Applications begin February 25th, and it remains open until March 25th. So I have some information that I will pass along to Administrator Rich, and if there's an opportunity.
Do it next agenda or the second meeting in March, but I don't want to lose track on that purchasing policy, because there's going to be a lot of things coming up, and I think we need to address that. It'll make Administrator Rich's life a little easier moving forward with all these rest of the projects that we got going on.
Agreed.
So I'll leave that up to council. I'm not saying it has to be on the next meeting, but I don't want to lose track of it either. So sometime I'll give Administrator Rich the choice, just sometime the next month.
Have the discussion to work on that?
Yeah, just at least bring it up at the council level so that, you know, maybe some recommendations, if you've been chewing on some things. Does by the second meeting in March give you enough time? Or do we need to do it the first meeting in April? Okay.
At least,
A draft or
A
a
yep.
recommendation.
Thank you. Is that everything, Counselor?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Reuter?
I have nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. I got a few things. First, I'd like to thank the street department for their work over the President's Day holiday and the last couple of days. So they did a good job, and hopefully that plow truck will come in October of next year, and they'll have a nice new toy to play with. Reminder, we got a civil service meeting prior to our council meeting on March 7th. That will be at 5 p.m. I'm guessing in council chambers or maybe conference room. I want to wish the Mirage and congratulate the Mirage. Good luck down at the state tournament. Congratulations on making it again this year. Hopefully they can do a repeat. And good luck to the boys hockey team. Tomorrow they play their first playoff game. Want to thank council for adjusting their schedules on such short notice so they can make a 4 o'clock meeting. I kind of like the 4 o'clock meeting. I don't know how council felt about it, but maybe if it works, we can look at adjusting our meeting times here in the near future as well. And Councilor DeWall looks at me sharply. But
Okay.
yeah, there's a thumbs up back there. And to pick on Troy again, I want to thank him for running the meeting last week while I was absent, or last meeting while I was absent. So thanks, Councilor DeWall. And I don't know how council feels. I'm hearing rumors about the school dropping their mask mandate in all school facilities soon. Not a rumor, Ted says. So that is happening.
As of Monday the 7th, they'll be recommended, not required.
As of Monday, March 7th, they will be recommended, not required. I don't know how council's feelings are on something like that or how city staff feels about that, but if that's something that we want to readdress here in the near future, I think we should approach that again as well, if we so choose. So other than that, that is all I have. Turdy and Bray, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Administrator Rich, how about yourself?
no, thank you, Mayor.
Nothing there. With that, we'll look for a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $144,625.07.
So moved.
Councilor Reuter being the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion on those? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councilor DeWall made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.